before the end of the hearing. So Senator Portman is next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you know, I was here earlier, and I'm sorry I had to step out for a markup, but I really appreciate your holding this hearing, you and Senator Risch, and your vigilance in ensuring that we can put the squeeze on Russia, because that's all that's going to get them to the table. I will say earlier, there was discussion by Mr. O'Brien about the fact that we need to demonstrate the, you said, the violence and criminality going on in Ukraine. The atrocities are clear. I was in Bucha a month ago, saw where the mass graves are. Izium, we learned about last week, which is this part of northeast Ukraine that has now been liberated. Torture, rape, executions of civilians, forgetting the bombings of the hospitals and the churches and the apartment buildings, forgetting the fact that they're taking orphan kids out of Ukraine and putting them in Russian families, and they could keep them in Ukraine, an extended family. These are actually definitions of genocide. So we need to understand this is going on as we talk. And what are we doing about it? Well, we're helping the Ukrainians militarily, and I think that's been extremely helpful to the successes we've seen on the battlefield. I think that's all that gets Vladimir Putin to the table, is feeling some pressure on the battlefield. Second, he's got to feel pressure at home. And I don't think they're feeling the squeeze. I appreciate all you're doing. I agree with what Senator Kaine said, but team, we have to realize that this is not working yet. I mean, you look at these numbers. You said that the Russian economy is bleak and deteriorating. That's how I would describe the Ukrainian economy. The Ukrainian economy is down, by best estimates, 40 to 50%. 40 to 50%, their GDP this year. How about the Russian economy? How far is it down this year? Well, based on the IMF numbers that we have, the best numbers we have, it's down 8.5% in 2022. Our economy is down this year a couple of points. So 8.5% versus 40 to 45% or 40 to 50%, the economic comparison is to me pretty concerning. And so I'm not sure they're feeling the squeeze in terms of the sanction side. They are starting to feel the battlefield successes by the Ukrainians, and I think that'll help get them to the table. We've got to tighten up the squeeze on Russia if we all agree that what they're doing are atrocities, and I agree with that, and so does the free world. Energy, windfall earnings this year. In Russia, the revenue that Russia is getting from energy is up 30% this year. If I'm wrong, correct me. Is that accurate? The revenue is up 30% this year. That revenue is funding the war machine. So my questions are many, but Ms. Rosenberg, I'll start with you. I'd like to reiterate the importance of Europe and their dependence on Russian energy. We've talked about that before. I've given speeches on the floor that Europe needs to do more in terms of the energy side. LNG imports are up. That's good. They're twice as high as they were last September right now. And I'm all for the LNG exports from us and from the Middle East to be able to help, and from other countries. And the share of Russian natural gas has gone down. That's good. But what I want to know is the Treasury Department has renewed the General License 8C, which has allowed certain Russian energy transactions to continue without sanction. Is the Treasury Department prepared to sanction entities once that waiver expires in December? I think it's on December 5th. Or does the department intend to extend that license again?
Senator, thank you for the question.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't agree more that we need to be laser focused on Russia's windfall earnings from energy and deny Russia some of that earning in order to fund its brutal war. That's led to this price cap policy amongst the G7, which would seek to keep Russian oil flowing at a lower price in order to deny Russia that revenue. One thing to note, you've mentioned General License 8C. This is the, as you note, method by which purchasers of Russian oil can continue to pay for that oil. The price cap policy in keeping that oil on the market, though at lower prices, requires that those purchasers be able to purchase it. So that is part of the conceived policy here, which would keep the oil on the market, but as we've noted, diminish the revenue. So that's part and parcel of this broader policy. It's different from prior sanctions, which have focused on denying volume rather than revenue. Here, given the critical interconnectivity of Russia's economy with so many others, for commodities, energy in particular, this is part of the policy.
So I'm coming into my questioning time. Let me just be sure I understand what you're saying. So you're saying that General License 8C may well be extended in early December because instead you believe that the price cap is more important. That should be used instead of the energy sanctions under the 8C license. Is that what you're saying?
Senator, I'm not in the position to forecast exactly what will happen with this or other general licenses. Nevertheless, I would emphasize here that in order for the price cap policy to successfully deprive Russia of revenue by pushing down the price, there must be a means to pay for it.
Let me ask you about the price cap. Have you set a price yet for the price cap?
Senator,
Yes or
that process has, excuse me,
Yes or no?
the process has begun to set the price.
Have you set a price yet?
The process
Yes or no?
is currently begun in order to set that price.
Have you set a price yet? Yes or no?
The process has begun, Senator.
Have you set a price cap yet? Yes or no?
We are in the process, Senator, of doing so.
You won't say no. Why won't you say no? You haven't set a price yet.
Senator, I appreciate your question, but we have begun this process with the G7 partners here in the Price Cap
Okay.
Coalition.
So the answer is no. You've acknowledged that, correct?
Senator, I appreciate your question. We have begun this process and fully intend to do
Chairman,
so.
maybe you can follow up on that. My time's
The
expired.
answer is no.
Thank you.
Because they have not established it yet. They're in the process of establishing
just say-
it. So if
just
you
say
ask
no.
right now, what is the price cap? There is no price cap to give you, but they're in the process of establishing it. That's
Yeah.
what I take
So-
away from the answer.
I think General License 8C is more effective. I understand what you're trying to do with the price cap. I think going against market forces is very difficult to do. I think there's some practicality issues there. So my hope is that we will not extend that General License 8C and that we'll continue to do what we can to try to truly squeeze Russia on the economic side. And that has to be through energy. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.